Your life has been measured by illusions. They told you that success is a formula, a grade, a title, a resume line. They said that respect comes from compliance and that influence is reserved for the lucky. You believed them because it was easier than questioning reality. But now the veil begins to lift. Music, you feel the unease gnawing at your thoughts, that sense that life is happening to you instead of through you. You are standing at the edge of consciousness, looking into the abyss of your own mind. Most will turn away here. Most are content with the scripts handed to them, reciting lines, performing roles they never chose. But you are different. Something inside stirs. Something refuses to obey the comfort of the herd. The first level is awareness. The sleeper. You see them everywhere. Faces in the subway, colleagues in open offices, acquaintances scrolling endlessly through curated feeds. Their eyes are awake, but their minds are inert. They are not stupid. They can solve problems. They can recite knowledge, but they are purely reactive. Every choice they make is dictated by external pressures, social expectations, and habitual patterns. They do not act, they are acted upon. The sleeper fears freedom because autonomy is terrifying. Responsibility is a burden they are unwilling to bear. Music, they are victims of circumstance, drifting with the current of life, perpetually waiting for permission to live. You, on the other hand, begin to notice the cracks. That persistent discomfort, that inner questioning. It is not weakness. It is the first pulse of intelligence. The awakening starts not with knowledge, but with clarity, understanding that most people are trapped in pre-programmed lives, manipulated by forces unseen. You observe the patterns. You see the subtle cues of control, the invisible levers of influence, and it terrifies you, but also excites you. You cannot return to sleep. Once you see the hierarchy, it will haunt you. You recognize the sleepers not with your eyes, but with your mind. They repeat slogans, echo headlines, mirror opinions. They consume without creation, obey without thought. And the truth hits. This is the level where 90% remain, never climbing, never questioning. Music. The second layer of awakening begins with knowledge, but knowledge is not enough. You gather facts, read books, memorize quotes, but you notice another type among those who appear awake, the mimics. They are clever, articulate, persuasive. They repeat lessons they have never lived, perform wisdom like a costume. They collect certificates, degrees, titles, but their understanding is superficial. Music. The mimic is dangerous because they mistake appearance for reality. They know the vocabulary of power, but not the calculus of consequence. You see them at dinner parties, in corporate meetings, on social media. They signal virtue, they adopt trends, they echo philosophies. They are awake, but not truly free. Their intelligence is performative. They are a mirror, reflecting the world but never shaping it. Here you stand, at the boundary between sleeper and mimic, the first true chasm in your ascent. The discomfort is acute. Your environment pressures conformity. Your biology craves social acceptance. Every instinct fights awakening. Yet, awareness is now your weapon. Music. You realize that intelligence is not about being polite, not about being correct, not about memorizing facts. It is leverage. It is the ability to act upon reality before reality acts upon you. True intelligence begins with agency. You must decide to act, not react, not perform, but to impose will upon circumstance. This is your initiation, your first climb, and the air is cold at the edge of the herd. Those who remain in comfort will never understand. But you, having glimpsed the hierarchy, have seen the path. And once seen, it cannot be unseen. The mirror is placed before you, reflecting not just others, but your own reflection, the sleeper within, waiting, yet unwilling to sleep again. Music. Step 1 ends here, but the ascent has only begun. The hierarchy is vast, layered, and ruthless. Each stage demands more clarity, more courage, more detachment. The world you knew is a simulation, a maze of expectations, and the first step of awakening is recognizing that you are already in the game, but you have the chance to change the rules. You feel the discomfort, the subtle terror of choice, the tremor of autonomy awakening inside you. It is the beginning. It is only the beginning. Awareness is intoxicating. Once you realize the world is a system, you feel taller than the sleepers still crawling through it. Music. This is where most awakenings go wrong. You mistake sight for depth. You believe that seeing the game means you have escaped it. You haven't. You have only stepped onto a different square of the board. Welcome to the second stage, the stage of imitation, the mimic. At this level, intelligence becomes an aesthetic. You realize that ideas carry status. Words carry power. Knowledge can be weaponized to earn approval, admiration, and influence. Music. But instead of forging your own mind, you borrow the minds of others. You adopt philosophies like fashion trends. You repeat arguments you have never stress-tested. You quote thinkers you have never challenged. The mimic is awake enough to know the world is fake, but not awake enough to build something real. You can spot the mimic by his hunger. He needs to be seen as intelligent. He needs recognition. He needs the nods, the likes, the applause. His self-worth is outsourced to the crowd. At meetings, he speaks in complex language to obscure shallow understanding. On social platforms, he aligns with the loudest moral current. Music, not because he believes, but because belief is irrelevant. What matters is signaling. The mimic does not seek truth. He seeks validation disguised as truth. This is the most seductive level of the hierarchy. It feels like progress. You look back at the sleepers with contempt. You think, I am not like them. And in that thought, your ego is trapped. Music, you are still being controlled, only now by a more refined leash. Instead of obeying authority, you obey reputation. Instead of fearing punishment, you fear irrelevance. You are no longer asleep, but you are not autonomous. The mimic believes intelligence is accumulation. More books, more credentials, more frameworks, more labels, but none of it translates into power. When confronted with chaos, he freezes. When faced with a novel problem, he searches for a quote. When systems break, he blames misunderstanding. Music. His knowledge is brittle because it was never earned through consequence. He has not paid the price of action. This level breeds moral arrogance. The mimic believes sounding right is the same as being right. He confuses rhetoric for reality. He believes that if his intentions are pure, outcomes will follow. They don't. Reality does not reward intention. Reality rewards effectiveness. And effectiveness demands something the mimic fears: accountability. At this stage, you begin to sense the ceiling. Despite all your knowledge, life does not bend. Opportunities do not multiply. Respect remains conditional. Music, you feel a subtle frustration. You know more, yet control less. This is the signal. The signal that intelligence without execution is theater. The mask begins to crack. Some mimics double down. They become louder, more dogmatic, more performative. They weaponize morality to protect their ego. They attack anyone who threatens their identity. Music, others choose the harder path. They look inward and recognize the truth. That borrowed intelligence is still dependency. That quoting power is not the same as wielding it. To move beyond this level, something must die. The need to be liked. The need to be praised. The need to be seen as good. Music, this death feels like isolation. Your social circle shrinks. Your words lose applause. But what replaces it is heavier and real. You begin to care less about how things appear and more about how they function. You stop asking, what should I think? And start asking, what works? This is the fracture point. Most never cross it. The mimic is comfortable, warm, socially protected. The next level is cold, transactional, unforgiving. It does not reward ideals. It rewards results. Music, standing here, you face a choice. Remain a performer in someone else's system, or step into a world where outcomes matter more than opinions. The mask slips. The applause fades. And in the silence, a new form of intelligence begins to form. One that counts, measures, and calculates. Step 2 ends not with clarity, but with loss. The loss of illusion. The loss of comfort. The loss of the crowd. What remains is potential. But potential demands a price. And the next level will collect it in full. When the applause dies, calculation begins. You enter the third level not with inspiration, but with necessity. This is where sentiment is replaced by arithmetic. Music, you no longer ask what feels right. You ask what pays, what scales, what survives. Welcome to the world of the calculator. At this stage, intelligence becomes transactional. Every action is measured against return. Time is currency. Energy is capital. Relationships are assets or liabilities. You stop romanticizing effort and start auditing outcomes. Music, the calculator understands a brutal truth the mimic avoids. Reality does not care about intention. It cares about results. You can be moral and still be irrelevant. You can be correct and still be crushed. The calculator is not naive. He sees the system clearly. He understands incentives. He studies markets, hierarchies, power flows. He learns to negotiate, to optimize, to extract value. Music, unlike the mimic, he reads the book and applies it. He tests ideas against consequence. He builds leverage slowly, methodically, without illusion. This level produces competence. Promotions happen. Income rises. Influence becomes tangible. You gain control over your immediate environment. Music, but something else emerges alongside success: paranoia. The calculator knows the game is zero-sum. Every gain has a counterparty. Every alliance is conditional. Trust becomes provisional. You are never fully at rest because everything can be priced and therefore replaced. The calculator lives inside spreadsheets, mentally if not literally. He evaluates people by utility. Conversations become negotiations. Even leisure is optimized. Music, this is efficient, but it is lonely. You begin to feel the cost of constant vigilance. You are no longer pretending, but you are not leading either. You are reacting faster, smarter, but still reacting. This is the level of the fox. Clever, adaptive, elusive. You survive by wit rather than force. You avoid traps, exploit gaps, stay one step ahead. Music, but the fox has limits. He cannot dominate. He cannot build empires. He thrives in margins, not centers. His intelligence is sharp, but brittle. One miscalculation and everything collapses. At level 3, fear returns, but in a refined form. Not fear of rejection, but fear of loss. You guard what you've built obsessively. You become risk-averse in the ways that matter most. Music, you play within the rules because the rules currently benefit you. You tell yourself this is wisdom. It isn't. It is conditioning. The calculator believes the system can be beaten by mastering it. But mastery without authority is dependency. You still answer to someone. A boss, a market, a client, an algorithm. Music, you are free compared to the sleepers, superior to the mimics, but you are not sovereign. This is where many stop climbing. Level 3 is comfortable enough to justify stagnation. You have status. You have resources. You have excuses. You tell yourself you are winning. Music, but deep down, you know the truth. You are still replaceable. Your value is tied to performance. Your power expires the moment you stop producing. The transition beyond this level requires something calculators resist: exposure. To move higher, you must accept visibility. You must accept blame. You must accept conflict. Music, you must trade safety for authority. The fox must either become the lion or spend his life avoiding wolves. Standing at the edge of level 3, you feel the tension. Stay clever and hidden, or step forward and be tested. The next ascent is not about thinking better. It is about acting decisively. It is about bearing weight. Music, the calculator can count outcomes, but he cannot command them. Step 3 ends with a realization that cuts deep. Optimization is not power. Control is not ownership. And intelligence that only reacts, no matter how fast, will always kneel to int. Calculation reaches its limit the moment decision enters the room. This is where the 4th level begins. The operator. Music, up to now, you survive by thinking better, moving faster, adapting smarter. But survival is not dominance. And intelligence that cannot decide under pressure is decoration. At level 4, intelligence becomes force. The operator steps forward when others hesitate. He does not wait for consensus. He does not ask for permission. He acts. Music, this is the level where responsibility replaces safety. Every decision has a cost, and that cost has a name: yours. When things work, the credit comes reluctantly. When they fail, the blame arrives immediately. The operator accepts this imbalance. He must, because leadership is asymmetrical pain. This is the realm of execution. Vision without action is fantasy, and the operator understands this deeply. He builds structures, commands people, moves resources. Music, he does not merely react to the system, he pushes against it. Others follow not because they are persuaded, but because inertia bends toward decisiveness. In chaos, certainty is magnetic. At this level, intelligence is no longer subtle. It is visible, loud, heavy. The operator stands at the front of the formation. He absorbs pressure so others do not have to. He enforces order where confusion thrives. Music, this is why he rises quickly, and why he becomes a target just as fast. Power at level 4 is physical, psychological, and temporal. It demands energy, presence, endurance. The operator's strength is tied to his capacity to act relentlessly. Music, and this is his vulnerability. His system depends on him. If he weakens, the structure trembles. If he pauses, challengers circle. The operator believes control comes from doing, from overseeing, from managing every detail. He micromanages not out of insecurity, but necessity. He trusts outcomes more than intentions. Music, but over time, the weight accumulates. Fatigue sets in. The burden of constant visibility becomes unbearable. This is the paradox of the operator. He appears powerful, but he is consumed by power. Every decision drains him. Every conflict sharpens him, but shortens him. He believes he is sovereign, yet he is enslaved by momentum. Music, the machine cannot stop because he cannot stop. At level 4, enemies are no longer abstract. They have faces, names, strategies. You are challenged openly, tested publicly. If you show weakness, you are replaced. If you hesitate, you are overrun. Music, the operator survives by force of will, but will is a finite resource. This is the level where many burn out. They mistake visibility for supremacy. They mistake dominance for control. They think being feared is enough. It isn't. Fear creates resistance. Resistance breeds opposition. Opposition multiplies enemies. Music, the operator spends more time fighting than building. Slowly, a realization forms. The most dangerous threats are not the loud ones. They are the silent ones, the unseen currents, the decisions made elsewhere, the forces shaping outcomes long before action is required. Music, the operator begins to sense something above him, something colder, quieter, more patient. Here, the final illusion of power shatters. Doing is not ruling. Commanding is not owning. Being seen is not being safe. The operator is strong, but strength attracts collision. Music, to rise further, intelligence must change form again. From force to influence. From visibility to invisibility. Step 4 ends with exhaustion. With competence stretched to its limit. With a question that refuses to stay silent. What if real power is not in standing at the front, but in deciding who stands there at all? Music, the weight remains, but the direction of power is about to shift. Power does not disappear when it leaves the spotlight. It condenses. Music, at the 5th level, intelligence abandons force and embraces influence. This is the domain of the puppeteer. If the operator ruled by presence, the puppeteer rules by absence. He understands a truth the lion never fully grasped. Direct control creates resistance. Subtle control creates consent. The puppeteer does not command. He arranges. He does not argue. He frames. He does not push reality. He bends desire until reality moves itself. Music, this is soft power, the art of making others believe their choices were always their own. The puppeteer studies psychology the way engineers study materials. He knows where minds flex, where they fracture, and where they harden. He does not stand on stages or lead meetings. He stands behind them. He whispers into the currents that shape decisions before decisions appear to exist. Music, narratives are his tools. Incentives are his levers. Context is his weapon. He understands that humans are predictable not because they are stupid, but because they are emotional. Fear and desire do the work. Logic only justifies the outcome afterward. At this level, intelligence becomes invisible. The puppeteer operates through intermediaries. The sleeper executes. The mimic amplifies. The calculator optimizes. The operator enforces. Music, none of them realize they are extensions of someone else's will. Success has no fingerprints. Failure has no witnesses. This is the elegance of plausible deniability. When systems succeed, credit flows elsewhere. When they fail, blame disperses downward. The puppeteer remains untouched. Music, he does not seek recognition. Recognition creates vulnerability. He seeks position, the kind that cannot be named or challenged. Identity becomes fluid here. Fixed personas are liabilities. The puppeteer becomes what the environment requires. Friend, advisor, partner, ally. Music, he mirrors values, adopts language, dissolves into context. No one ever sees the whole shape. They see only what is useful to them. And in that usefulness, they are guided. But this level extracts a price that cannot be measured. Distance. When every interaction is a maneuver, sincerity erodes. When every conversation is strategic, connection dissolves. Music, The puppeteer understands people deeply, but no longer feels with them. Empathy becomes data. Trust becomes technique. Isolation sets in quietly. Not dramatic. Not painful. Just cold. You stop being surprised by human behavior. You stop being disappointed. You stop being moved. Music. Humanity becomes predictable, and predictability kills wonder. The puppeteer can control outcomes, but he cannot participate in them. This is the lonely peak of manipulation. Many believe this is the summit. Invisible control, systemic influence, untouchable position, music, but there is a flaw hidden even here. The puppeteer is still reacting to the board, to incentives, to human nature. He is still playing the game, just better than anyone else. True supremacy requires something else entirely. Not manipulation of players, but ownership of the rules. Not steering moves, but designing the arena. Music. As this realization forms, the puppeteer feels a subtle dissatisfaction. Influence is powerful, but it is fragile. Narratives can shift. Incentives can decay. Players can change. The shadow understands this at last. Control over people is temporary. Control over systems endures. Step 5 ends not with triumph, but with detachment. With a final recognition that even invisible hands are bound by the game they touch. Music. Beyond this point lies a different intelligence. One that does not persuade, command, or manipulate. One that constructs reality itself.